What if I told you, living alone for 1 year slowly changes your brain, and almost nobody notices it happening until it's too late? Psychologists discovered something surprising about people who live alone, and almost nobody talks about it. If you've ever wanted to live alone, watch this before you sign that lease. Shh. Someone right now is reading a Reddit thread about living alone and thinking, that actually sounds peaceful. And someone else, who has already lived alone for 4 months, is currently talking to their houseplant about whether the plant is mad at them. And the terrifying part is, neither of them is wrong. Because here is what nobody tells you before you sign that lease and wave goodbye to your roommates and your family, and every single person who has ever borrowed your phone charger without asking. Living alone sounds like freedom. It sounds like finally getting the shower temperature exactly right, watching whatever you want, eating cereal for dinner without a single soul judging you. And it is all of that. But it is also something else entirely. Something nobody puts in the apartment tour. Something the landlord definitely does not mention while handing you the keys with that suspiciously cheerful smile. What actually happens to a person when they are completely, genuinely, totally alone for a full year? Shh. Not weekend alone. Not my roommate is out of town alone. 365 days of nothing but yourself, your thoughts, and the absolutely unhinged conversations you will start having inside your own head. For real, bro, here, where we say what no one else will. And before you say that sounds amazing, hold on, because the thing that starts as freedom has a second chapter. And the second chapter is where it gets weird. The version of yourself that shows up around month 3, you have never met that person. And honestly, you might not like them immediately. Part 1. The beautiful Lee. Everyone believes before day 1. Let's start at the beginning. Because the beginning is the best part. Genuinely. The first week of living completely alone might be one of the greatest experiences a human being can have. You walk into your apartment and there is nobody there. And instead of that feeling being scary, it feels like exhaling after holding your breath for years. You cook pasta at midnight because you felt like it. You leave your shoes in the middle of the floor on purpose, just because you can. Just to feel alive. You blast your music so loud the neighbors definitely hear it and you do not care even a little bit. You watch 3 episodes of something you would have been embarrassed to admit you liked if anyone else was around. And it is glorious. This is what psychologists actually call the honeymoon phase of solitude. And it is real. Studies on people who transition to living alone show that the first few weeks register some of the highest self-reported happiness scores of their lives. Not because loneliness has not arrived yet, but because relief has arrived first. Relief from performance. Relief from managing someone else's mood. Relief from the invisible labor of just existing around other people. Because here is a thing nobody talks about. Being around people, even people you love, is exhausting in ways you do not notice until they are gone. Every conversation requires a tiny performance. Every shared space requires a tiny negotiation. Every morning requires you to be a presentable, functioning version of yourself even before you have had coffee. And when all of that disappears at once, the silence does not feel empty. It feels like a really good massage for your nervous system. But here is where the story starts to turn. Because around day 10 to 14, something changes. It is small. So small you almost miss it. You reach for your phone not because anyone texted you, but because you want someone to have texted you. You start narrating your own actions out loud while you cook. Okay, so now I add the garlic. You catch yourself laughing at something funny, and then immediately looking up to share it with a person who is not there. And you think, that is fine, that is normal. I am just adjusting, and you are right. But adjustment is not the word for what comes next. Part 2. Week 3 and the arrival of your other self. Nobody warns you about week 3. Week 1, you are euphoric. Week 2, you are still riding the high. Week 3 is when the real tenant moves in. And the real tenant is not you. Shh. The real tenant is the version of you that exists when there is nobody to perform for. Nobody to impress. Nobody to slightly adjust your personality around. This version of you has opinions you did not know you had. You start noticing things that genuinely disturb you about yourself. Like the fact that you have been eating the same 3 meals on rotation and you called it finding your rhythm. but it is actually just decision fatigue dressed up in optimism, or the fact that you have started giving the pigeons outside your window names, and you look forward to seeing them in the morning more than you have looked forward to most human interactions in years. Gerald the pigeon has become more emotionally consistent than most people you know. But here is the fascinating part. And this is where it stops being funny and starts being genuinely weird. Research on long-term solitude, not isolation, but intentional solitude, shows that people start to experience a phenomenon called self-confrontation, which is exactly as uncomfortable as it sounds. When there is nobody else in the room to react to, you stop editing yourself. Your thoughts get louder, your insecurities get more specific. The stuff you have been too busy or too distracted to look at directly suddenly has nowhere to hide. So what happens? You either get very honest with yourself or you go looking for noise to drown it out. And the noise options are everywhere. Endless podcasts playing in the background so your apartment never feels quiet. Music the moment you walk in the door. Phones scrolling until 2 a.m., not because you are entertained, but because the alternative is sitting with your own thoughts, and your thoughts have apparently been saving up a lot to say to you. And here is the prediction you are probably making right now. You are probably thinking, okay, so it gets a little uncomfortable, and then you grow through it and come out stronger. Cute prediction. Wrong prediction. Because the thing that happens between month 2 and month 6 is not a straight line of growth. It is something weirder and harder and more interesting than that. Part 3. The Month 3 Identity Crisis Nobody Put on the Broker. Month 3 is where things get genuinely strange. Because by month 3 you have settled into routines, and your routines have gotten very specific in ways that would alarm the people who know you. You have a whole ritual now for making your morning coffee that takes exactly 11 minutes, and involves a specific mug that must be used in the specific order, and if anything disrupts the sequence you feel an unreasonable amount of distress. You have also started talking to yourself. Not little comments here and there, full conversations. Both sides. You argue with yourself. You explain things to yourself. You occasionally give yourself encouragement in a slightly different voice than your regular internal monologue. And you have not fully interrogated what that means. You have also started being weirdly territorial about things nobody is threatening to take. The good blanket is your blanket. The left side of the couch is your side. You have a preferred side of your own couch that you are emotionally protective of, and you live alone. But here is the thing that nobody expected. Not even the researchers who study this. Month 3 is also when some people experience massive creative output, massive clarity on things they have been confused about for years, massive confidence and preferences they never knew they had, because when you stop performing for an audience, you start making choices based on what you actually want. And finding out what you actually want after years of factoring in everyone else's reaction to your choices, that is either the most liberating thing that has ever happened to you or genuinely terrifying information. Because some people discover in month 3 that they actually love things they pretended not to care about, because someone they were with did not care about those things. Some people realize they have been slightly muting their own personality for years to make shared spaces more comfortable. And some people realize that the version of themselves they show other people is not a lie exactly, but it is not the full thing either. And here is where the tension really builds. Because now, you have met yourself. The actual you. The unedited version. And you have to decide what to do with that information. Do you like what you see? Do you want to bring this version back to the world? Or do you quietly close that door and go back to who you were before you had all this time to look? That question is not done with you yet. Part 4. Month 6 hits different and not in a good way. Month 6. Okay. Month 6 is the part of this whole thing that nobody romanticizes on Instagram. Nobody posts about month 6. Month 6 is where the silence stops feeling peaceful and starts feeling loud, because there is a difference between choosing to be alone and noticing that you have simply been alone. And somewhere around month 6, those two things start to blur. You start running calculations in your head that you did not run before. How many days since you had a real conversation with another person in the same room? How many times this week did you laugh out loud at something and have no one to share it with? How many meals have you eaten at a table that could seat 4 people with nobody else at it? And the weird thing is, you're not even that sad about it. That is the unsettling part. Because the emotion is not sadness exactly. It is something quieter. Like a low hum underneath everything else that was not there before. Psychologists call it ambient loneliness, and it is different from the sharp, immediate loneliness of missing a specific person. Ambient loneliness is structural. It is the loneliness of a life that does not have anyone else woven into it, and here is where your brain starts doing something genuinely disturbing. It starts rewriting history. Memories of time spent with other people start looking better in retrospect than they did when they were happening. That dinner with your family that felt annoying at the time suddenly looks, in month 6, like something you would pay a significant amount of money to be sitting at again. Your old roommate who left dishes in the sink, the one you were so relieved to be away from, suddenly feels like she was not that bad. You are gaslighting yourself about your own past, and your brain is fully complicit in it. But here's the twist nobody sees coming. Month 6 is also statistically the moment when the people who make it through to something genuinely powerful start separating from the people who retreat. Because month 6 forces a choice that was always there but easy to avoid. Who are you when you are not being perceived? Not the edited version, not the performance. Just you, alone with yourself, with the full weight of your own company for 6 straight months. And the uncomfortable truth, the one this whole video has been building to, is that most of us have spent our entire lives running from that exact question. Not because we are afraid of ourselves, but because we have never actually had to sit still long enough to meet ourselves. And now you have. Part 5. What the world you're actually taker at you that nobody expected. Here is where everything circles back. Remember the very first thing we said? That someone right now is reading about living alone and thinking it sounds peaceful? Yeah, that person is not wrong. But they are also not looking at the full picture yet, because by the end of 365 days, something has shifted that cannot be unshifted. Not in a dramatic movie way where you emerge from the year with a full spiritual transformation and a new wardrobe. In a quieter, more permanent way. The stuff you learned about yourself in months 2, 3, and 6, that is not information you can put back in a box. Here is the theory reveal. And this is the part that tends to genuinely surprise people. Living alone for a full year is not actually about discovering that you can survive without other people. That is the surface version of the lesson. The deeper version, the one that takes the full year to land, is this. You cannot actually know what you want from other people until you know what you are like without them. Read that again slowly. Because most people build their entire relational lives around a version of themselves that has never been properly alone. So they build those connections on assumptions. They assume they need constant contact. Or they assume they are fine with minimal connection. They assume they know what kind of company they thrive in. But the only way to actually know any of that is to remove all of it and see what you reach for first when you get to choose. And what do people who have done a year of genuine solitude say they reached for? Not just anyone. Not just noise. Not just the familiar. They reached for specific people. Specific conversations. Specific kinds of presence. Because the year alone stripped away the social maintenance. The polite performance. The connections you were keeping out of habit or obligation. Or the fear of the gap that would exist without them. And what was left was the actual list, the people and the things that mattered in a way that had nothing to do with convenience. That is the real product of 365 days alone. Not toughness, not independence, not the ability to be your own best friend. The real product is clarity, uncomfortable, specific, slightly brutal clarity about what you actually need and who you actually are when nobody is watching. And here's the callback that makes all of this land. Remember Gerald the pigeon from month 3? You named a pigeon because you needed something alive and consistent and low maintenance in your environment. And that is actually not pathetic. That is your nervous system telling you, in the most embarrassingly honest way possible, that you are a creature that needs connection. Not performance, not audience, not validation. Connection. The real kind. The kind where you do not have to edit yourself to be comfortable. A year alone does not teach you that you do not need people. It teaches you exactly which kind of people and exactly why. And that is information that most people never get. Because most people are never quiet enough, never still enough, never alone enough to hear it. Freedom is real. But freedom is not the absence of everyone else. Freedom is knowing exactly who you are when everyone else is gone and choosing, deliberately, intentionally, clearly, who you want to let back in. And that right there is something you cannot fake. You have to actually sit in the silence long enough, which means the question is not whether you could survive 365 days alone. The question is whether you are scared of what you would find out about yourself if you did. Because most people, when they are honest, are not scared of the silence. They are scared of what the silence might tell them. Drop in the comments what month you think you would lose it, or are you the terrifying kind of person who thinks they would genuinely enjoy the whole year? Because that answer says more about you than you probably want to admit. And if you are the kind of person who would enjoy the whole year, you should probably subscribe. Not because we ask people to do that, but because, honestly, we are a little worried about you, and we want to check in regularly. Gerald would want you to.